And just like that, 2017 is over. And that means it is time to release what are my favorite films of 2017, as well as what are my least favorite films of 2017. There were a lot of films this year, and I saw 36 of them. That's right, 36. And some of them I saw more than once. So if you think about a calendar year of 52 weeks, that's about one movie a week. That's a lot of visits to the theater. Today we will discuss the best of 2017, and then I will upload a separate video listing the worst, because there are just too many to fit into one video. Let's go ahead and dive right into the favorites. And before I get to my top 10 favorite films, I just have 5 honorable mentions that I would like to list. And these honorable mentions are The Greatest Showman, The Beguiled, Thor Ragnarok, Girls Trip, and Snatched. All very well done films that spoke to me in different ways for different reasons, and they didn't quite make my top 10, but they left enough an impression on me to where I wanted to give them a shout out. And without further ado, let's kick off the top 10 favorite films of mine for 2017. And in the number 10 spot, we have Pitch Perfect 3. It's not as strong as the first one. Even though the soundtrack was a little bit forgettable, I would say that the comedy and humor in the third one was stronger than the second one. And overall, I feel that I got more enjoyment out of the third one than the second one. Still not as good as the first one, but I thought it was decent, and I thought it was funny, and the cast was great, and that's why it's my number 10. And at number 9, we have Table 19, which is probably a film that not very many of you even know about. I've described this as a band of misfits film about a number of strangers that are put together in the same setting, and they're all a completely jumbled group of characters that bond over a very short amount of time. It's very quirky, but the best word I would use to describe Table 19 is charming. Very easily watchable, and that's why it made my number 9 spot. And in my number 8 spot, we have Wonder. And this was a film that snuck up on me that I wasn't necessarily going to go out of my way to see, but the critic reviews were amazing, the audience reactions were amazing, and so my curiosity was piqued. And so I went to see Wonder, and I was blown away by how emotionally drawn in I was to this film, and the reason why I appreciated it was because it's not like a typical Hallmark Channel original family drama movie. It's not a two-dimensional story with forced moments to make you cry. It felt genuine, it felt real, it was heartwarming. It makes you leave the theater with a smile on your face, and so that's why I do highly recommend Wonder. In my number 7 spot, we have Coco, another hit from Pixar where they nailed it and hit it out of the park, and all sports puns I can't think of right now. And Coco was an emotional, beautifully, it's almost a beautifully shot, but it's animated, beautifully animated film. Jaw-droppingly gorgeous scenery, and it made me cry. This one truly is an amazing accomplishment by Pixar, and I really hope it does take home the award for Best Animated Feature for 2017, and that is why it's definitely on my top 10 list in my number 7 spot. And in my number 6 spot, we have Molly's Game. And for those of you that know me exceptionally well, you might know that I'm a huge fan of Aaron Sorkin writing. He is without a doubt my favorite screenwriter for television and now film. He did he wrote The Social Network, he wrote Steve Jobs. Molly's Game was a triumph by Aaron Sorkin. I argue that Jessica Chastain gave one of her best performances that I've seen. Idris Elba was fantastic in his supporting role opposite her, and Kevin Costner was in one of my favorite scenes in that film, and I really appreciated everything this film brought to the board. Aaron Sorkin proves yet again how strong he is at writing a story, and this was his directorial debut, and I thought it was a success. So well done, Aaron Sorkin. That's why Molly's Game is here on my list. And in my number 5 spot, we have Lady Bird. I feel like this is going to be the type of film that will be easy for me to just stick in one day or just turn on one day to watch because I have a free afternoon. Saoirse Ronan gives probably what is her best performance I've ever personally seen her in, and I think she'll definitely be nominated for an Academy Award. Not sure if she'll take it because she has some pretty stiff competition, but she'll definitely be nominated. Lady Bird is a 90-minute dramedy with exceptional performances. It's not a cliche. It felt very real. It felt very enchanting at times, very charming, but also very real in its portrayal, especially with the mother-daughter relationship in this film. Well done to Greta Gerwig for her directorial debut on this one. Lady Bird is a great film, and I highly recommend it. And in the number 4 spot, we have The Shape of Water. This film resonated with me on so many levels. I describe it as a adult fairy tale, and that's exactly what it is. The cast gives a tremendous performance across the board. Sally Hawkins, she is so deserving of an Oscar for her portrayal, and she doesn't say anything. She is a mute woman who falls in love with a sea creature man. Octavia Spencer is hilarious and wonderful, as always. There's no role Octavia Spencer's played where she does a bad job. She's just notoriously wonderful in everything she does. Richard Jenkins gives what I feel like is an Oscar-worthy performance in this, and this movie moved me. It tugged on every emotional heartstring. It kept me fully engaged, and the payoff is fantastic. I have very few, if any, qualms with this film. Can't wait to see it again. I highly recommend The Shape of Water. All right, we're getting to it, everyone. We are at my top 3 spots for 2017, and this was very difficult for me to narrow it down. So in the number 3 spot, we have Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I find The Last Jedi to be a very strong film. It has some groundbreaking moments. I will say that that movie was probably 65 to 70% fantastic, with 35 to 30% of it being not so great. And that's the big difference between The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. I thought The Force Awakens was almost a picture-perfect film from start to finish. There is nothing I would have cut out and or changed. But The Last Jedi, it did struggle in some areas, and there were portions of it that that missed the mark. There were some narrative issues, some pacing issues, and even some scripting issues and creative choices that I really do not agree with. But that being said, after seeing it 3 times now in theaters, the pros definitely outweigh the cons by a good margin, to the point to where I think it is a very, very good film. I argue that Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher as Luke and Leia were given the best material they've ever had to act in these character roles for them. And that is saying something. Overall, Star Wars has a large number of jaw-dropping moments, some of the best scenes and action sequences I've ever seen in a Star Wars, with exceptional performances across the board, especially from Adam Driver, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher. All right, we are getting to my top 2 people. Some of you may have already guessed them, but in my number 2 spot, we have Wonder Woman. That film battled it out so hard with Star Wars, and I feel that Wonder Woman definitely took the edge. Wonder Woman is an exceptional, masterfully done film. The only qualm I have with that entire movie is its villains, and those were the only elements that I feel like the film struggled in establishing, but it is such a small factor in what makes up a grand superhero film. I argue that it's one of the best superhero films that I've ever seen. I said it, never taken that back, but it is an exceptional film regardless. The action set pieces are badass. The performances are so incredibly engaging. They pulled me in, they hooked me hard, they made me cry, they made me laugh. This film is a treasure in the history of film, and with it being the most successful female superhero movie to date, it's made history, and it's the only successful DCEU movie that has been released to date for a good reason. The rest of them have not been very good. But Wonder Woman is the golden exception, and I love that film the more and more that I see it. I can't stress this film enough to everybody to see if you haven't. Give it a chance. It's not just another superhero film. Trust me on this one. In my number one spot, everyone, this was especially hard to determine, but I feel that it definitely won, and I'm very proud to say that my number one favorite film of 2017 was none other than Beauty and the Beast. This film continues to this day to put a huge smile on my face. And Beauty and the Beast definitely hooked me on the nostalgia, because Beauty and the Beast is my favorite classic Disney animated fairy tale, and even though this is not a perfect adaptation, it adapts, I've said, 75% of it perfectly. On top of just nostalgia, the visuals, the costumes, the colors are just beautiful. They're just so rich on the screen and they just jump out at you. And another factor is the rewatchability of this film. This has become a film that I could easily just turn on Netflix or Blu-ray and just have on in the background, or just watch it, or maybe I'm cleaning my apartment and I just want to turn on something in the background. It also helps that this movie has some great music in it. Rewatchability is tremendously high for Beauty and the Beast. And that's a big factor for me. I feel like the music is very strong, I feel like the cast is very strong, and I feel that the overall structure of the film is beautiful. Beauty and the Beast resonated with me on so many levels, and strong enough where it pulled me, it got me, and it has rightfully earned its place as my number one film of 2017. There you have it, everyone. My top 10 favorite films of 2017. Be on the lookout for my top most disappointing or worst films of 2017 coming up here shortly. And in the meantime, I am Ryan Bamey, signing off. Bye, everyone.